afternoon. Wow. So the lunch has really caught up with all of you, huh? Good afternoon. That was better. Okay. So we are all here for Web3, right? A very interesting topic. We hear a lot of stuff around Web3. We have also been hearing a lot of stuff around Metaverse. So the panel here is going to today discuss about the skepticism around implementation of Web3 as a technology. And how does it differ between a luxury goods brand and the mass market? So the focus here is going to be all about adoption. And I have an amazing panel with me, some very senior leaders from the industry. Few of them have implemented, various blockchain solutions in their own organizations. Few of them are leading practices, which does implementation of Web3. Few of them are head of, they head the marketing function of brands. So let us hear from them. I'll just do a quick round of introduction of all the panelists. Then we'll move to the second stage of our discussion, which will be more about understanding the perspective around Web3. What do we feel about it? What is our experiences around it? And then the third part of it would be to talk about the various business cases, specifically focusing on what have we implemented in our organization or what implementation we have seen and how has it been successful. And the fourth, where we look at the adoption cycle in luxury goods and mass market. So this is how we are going to start with. I will request my panelists to do their own introduction. It is better to hear from them their own story. So why not we start with Rajesh?
Hello everyone, my name is Rajesh and I work as Senior Vice President and Global Head of Emerging Technologies for Tech Mahindra. I've been with TechM over the last 5 years and started the blockchain practice. Happy to talk about more.
Thank you, Rajesh. Vinod?
Thank you for having me. My name is Vinod Bhat. I am the Chief Information Officer and Chief Ethics Counsellor for Vistara Airlines. I've been in the industry for 30 plus years now. I've spent 10 plus years in US, some years in UK, Europe and APAC. So I've been associated with digital technologies last 16, 18 years. So happy to be part of this panel.
Hi everybody, this is Harleen. I lead the growth retention function at the Glamm group. We are a house of brands into beauty and personal care, and I'm here to bring the marketing perspective to Web3 technologies that bring to the brands. Happy to be here.
Hi everyone, my name is Arpit. I'm Managing Director for Near Foundation, leading India, Southeast Asia and Middle East. I have been living and breathing Web2 for last 3 years now. Web3, sorry, for last 3 years now. Super excited about how things are turning out and some interesting use cases that are happening. Have been part of some 35 projects of different nature, different sectors, B2B, B2C, government, etc. Super excited to be here. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm not sure if I should be saying GM, like we do it in the Web3 space. My name is Akash Agrawal. I have had like Web3 maybe 2 or 3 iterations. So about 16, 17 years. Initially, I was working for Sony, Nike, and Walmart, leading brand and marketing, and actually learning from them, not leading those businesses. In the last 10 years or so, I've been into consulting. I transitioned into Web3 in 2021. That's when the NFTs started hitting. I learned about blockchain somewhere in about 2018. So right now, I help brands build that bridge from Web2 to Web3. I'm looking forward to this discussion here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Akash. So let me ask you some questions. This is a Web3 conference, and I'm sure you all are aware of what NFT is, right? So how many of you own NFTs? Wow, okay. Not many, right? Now, suppose you are given an option to have your own NFT. What would that be about? If you are given an option to have your own NFT, what would that NFT be about?
Persona.
Your persona?
Not my persona, but persona of
In general.
Okay. Interesting. What else? Membership pass into the community. Okay. Interesting. What else? Anything related to, some sports person that you're a fan of, or any movie star that you're a fan of, anything like that? Priceless piece of art. I heard somebody say never. That's interesting. Good. Okay. Right, that's it. Come on, there could be so many interesting use cases around NFT, right? Okay, fine. Let me move to something else in terms of Web3 adoption. You all know what a token is, right? A blockchain crypto token. Now, suppose we give you an option to build your own token. What would that token be about, and what use case would you be using that token to solve?
Loyalty program.
Okay, so loyalty program, right? Great.
So loyalty program is like MLM. I don't think so that will be out.
That will not be?
Applicable.
That.
MLM. It's not that.
Okay, nice perspective. Anything else?
One in the world.
One in the world. Okay. Who else? Come on, this is an open canvas, right? Just some imagination, some innovation. Excellent. So this is an amazing response, because it directly talks about how Web3 can be there for mass adoption, right? And this is a great example. Okay, so decentralized identity, absolutely. There are a lot of people actually working on it, and that's a great use case. Okay, so let's get into the discussion. What I'll request now is for each of the panelists to share their perspective about Web3 and any experience that they would want to share with us about any Web3 implementation they may have seen or they may have experienced. So why not we start with maybe Akash. Akash, you have been with brands like Nike and Walmart, right? And you are currently a consultant. You had a consulting company. That's your own startup where you help enterprises move into Web3. So what, according to you, is your perspective or your perception about Web3?
Sure. Thanks, Sumit. So it really varies. So I think one of the challenges that I come across often when we talk of skepticism, actually. So number one, maybe how many skeptics are there right now who think that Web3 is nothing too great? Maybe just a show of hands. No skeptics. Awesome. Wow. We should shut down. Let's go home.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? Okay, great. So anyway, so let me just talk about Web 1, 2, 3, this journey. Sometimes it may not be as clear because I was outside, somebody was talking about creator economy, and they were referring to Web 2 and saying that creator economy already exists. So what is different? So I'll maybe just briefly touch upon that. So Web 1 started off with something which we call or refer to as information economy, where you could just read or glean information off the internet. That was late 90s. 2000 is when we started seeing where you can actually upload information or data onto the internet. And that is when all these platforms started to come into existence. By platform, I mean Facebook or YouTube or Instagram and all of those platforms actually. So also with the development of all these devices, each one of us technically became a creator, where we are creating content and uploading it almost on a daily basis, maybe on social media or LinkedIn or wherever that you are. What we sometimes miss is that that content is not yours once it is uploaded onto the internet, okay? So it belongs to the platform. They have absolute right, or they can shut it down, they can lose it, they can get hacked, and you will have nothing to do about that. The other is from a take rate perspective, which they charge, it can go as high as about 60 to 70%. So imagine as a creator, you just might be getting 30 cents to $1, and that's all that you get. So I'm not saying those platforms are bad. Those platforms, if you think what did they provide us, they brought forward actually three benefits. Number one was access. The other was in terms of aggregation that they did. And the number three, most importantly, was the trust service. So if I take an example of Amazon, for example, in terms of access, they suddenly opened up the entire buyer community to a brand that was wanting to sell on the internet. From an aggregation perspective, as a user, I could go there and look at hundreds of brands at the same time. Most importantly, trust services. The brand or the supplier does not need to trust the buyer, and the buyer does not need to trust the supplier itself from a quality perspective or whatever that they're looking at, because Amazon takes care of that. So when we move to Web3, it is actually this trust service which gets taken over by technology. And that really is the huge difference. And what this does is, in very simple terms, does two things. It gives you the right of the property. It might be digital asset or whatever it is, and it gives you complete verifiable ownership. And those two things really make it totally differentiated from what Web2 is, and it enables a lot of services and solutions. To simplify it actually further, if you're a creator, for example, a digital art, somebody mentioned wanted to own a digital art. So if I was putting it up on a platform, I might be losing 20-30% as a take rate of that platform, and then I only earn once. That is when the first time that that particular art sells. But what happens in Web3 is potentially you can create a royalty which can run in perpetuity, right? And imagine how empowering it'd be for the creator who actually put in all that hard work to create that solution. So many a times this creator economy aspect is lost out on people or brands that I talk to about. And that is what we really need to put forth and say that, okay, here is what it does. And this is where you can actually empower your own community and engage with them to build the brand forward. And I'll get into the examples maybe later on as we go along.
Sure. No, I think that was great. Rajesh, you had the emerging technologies business at Tech Mahindra,
right.
And you prior to this you were with Quattro,
Right.
So you have seen a lot of implementation happening, right, in terms of digital technologies, which includes AI, machine learning, and blockchain as well. So what is your take on the industry, and where is this moving, specifically Web3 implementation?
So given the current state of adoption and the current state of industry, I think Web3 is still utopian. And why I say it is utopian, because there are three fundamental things that Web3 is going to bring to the table. One is in terms of right to monetize, right to forget, and right to control. And you don't have any of that on the existing internet today. And existing internet cannot cater to that because it's fundamentally the architectures are different. It's based on centralized architectures. And whatever we are talking about cannot happen in a centralized architecture environment. It has to go to a decentralized architecture. For example, Brave as a browser, the prosumer thing that he was talking about, where the producer is also a consumer and vice versa. It cannot happen in the existing scheme of things and the existing centralized architectures. The first one is a tectonic shift from the centralized architecture to the decentralized architecture, which brings in terms of full disintermediation into the play. So that's the first step that we need to make. So we are somewhere dabbling between Web 2.0 and Web 3.0, probably Web 2.5, where now we are trying to bring all these applications, whether it is non-fungible token, or whether it is metaverse, or whether it is circular economy, where you have token economy is nothing but a circular economy. And to that, you are adding an element of trust. And you're trying to say, okay, now let me usher you guys from a Web 2.0 or 2.5 to 3.0. So most of the implementations that we have pivoted within India as well as outside India are somewhere between Web 2.5 and Web 3.0. You cannot do Web 3.0 in isolation of the other ecosystem players. So whatever we did, for example, we did NFTs. First time an automaker from India did an NFT. Why I'm calling it as first time? Because they did it in a fiat currency and not a cryptocurrency. Ideally, if it would have been done through a cryptocurrency, it would have sat in the domain of Web 3.0, but a group of 75 years of existence, you don't want to do anything fishy, so you want to play safe. So you have to bring in hybrid models into the play. We see a lot of evangelization of Web 3.0, and that is actually happening from the startup community because there's a vested interest, right? You've done initial coin offering, you've done initial exchange offering. Now you need to take your DApp, decentralized application, from a research paper into a POC. That's where we see a lot of activity is happening. I don't think we are yet in the perspective of Web 3.0, until and unless you change these macro factors, that's where we go to Web 3.0.
That's a great point, specifically when you touched upon the reason why the automobile manufacturer decided not to go for a crypto but a fiat. I think the government has to play a major role here in terms of adoption, right? So, Arpit, you had a NEAR Foundation for this region, and there has been a lot of implementations that you have done. Prior to this, you were with Polygon, and again there you've done a lot of Web3 implementation. Would love to learn your perspective and your take on Web3 adoption.
Yeah. So I think I'll take a slightly contrarian view to what Rajesh just mentioned, right? So it's about the perspective. If you look at Web3 from the perspective of an enterprise or a traditional business, exactly that is what is happening, right? That how are big enterprise clients adopting Web3? So basically they are taking some elements of Web3, weaving them into something which I call peripheral use cases which do not touch the core of the business, so as not to disrupt anything, and using some of those elements and delivering a Web 2.50 kind of a experience, right? But at the same time, we have to be cognizant, and it happens a lot that when we talk about Web3, we think of Web3 as something which is going to happen in 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, right? But what is interesting is that Web3 is happening today, right? So there are two worlds which are existing today. So there is this Web 2 world, or the traditional world that we see. And then there is a very dynamic Web3 world which is in existence today. It has been there for past many years. Yes, users are less. Yes, like these are still early adopters. Yes, use cases are limited. There are cyber threats. All of those things are there. But this world exists today. Okay. Now, if you look at social media, there are amazing applications out there. Lens Protocol, like completely decentralized social media. There are DAOs which are running decentralized media platforms. Like all of that is still happening. So that's on Web 2 versus Web 3. Some example, and I think we touched upon different aspects here, right? And I'll touch upon some of the examples that I have seen do really well. So there is this application called Sweatcoin, like which is a walk to earn kind of an application, right? So what Sweatcoin is deployed on NEAR, like it has around 700,000 monthly active users. So it's a very, very popular mobile application, and in the backend, there is a crypto integration where you can have your tokens, etc. You can swap it for different tokens, etc. So all of that is there. So what is happening exactly is that you are taking your consumers or users who are like used to using some applications in a particular way, and then taking them from that Web 2 place to them on a journey to Web 3, right? Decentralized web, because decentralized web operates in a very different way. So I think we will have to take that view when it comes to brands, when it comes to use cases, that we have to understand that yes, while Web3 world exists today, majority of people are not in it, and they will not automatically get onboarded. There is a journey that we need to take them on. So I think that's where a lot of activity, a lot of fun will happen in next few years.
So it's the tech adoption journey that we are talking about, right? And any tech that we have seen, there is a journey that they go through. There is a cycle that they go through. AI, for example, has matured, and it is in a hyperactive scale right now. I think it's time to come for Web3 as well.
Just to add to that point, what I was saying is one is in terms of adoption, and the other one is in terms of the foundational layer from a facilitator aspect. You cannot do Web 3.0 without implementing interplanetary file system. Now, how many of them are an IPFS kind of a technology? There is no adoption, and you go to a large adopters, you will spend a lot of time in academic discussions trying to convince them how IPFS is more secure from an enterprise scheme of things, vis-a-vis for a startup kind of scheme of things. So it has to work in tandem in terms of the foundational layer. If Googles of the world are going to run the internet, I don't think you will ever get to Web 3.0. So that foundational intervention needs to happen from a decentralized web providers, from an IPFS system perspective. On top of that, you can architect adoption, then things will start shaping up. That was my point.
Agree. Vinod, you represent Vistara, and you have been with TCS before this, where you were the head of consumer packaged goods. So you have done a lot of implementations of digital technologies, including Web3. So what is your take on this?
First of all, thank you for having me in this panel again. See, I want to give a different perspective. I don't want to talk about your architectures. A lot of people, a lot of panels are talking about it. Let me give you a business flavor. I think let us keep the technology aside, first of all. Let us understand what we are trying to do here. Web 3.0 is a new way of doing business. When you talk about it, you need to put the business processes in place. If tomorrow I need to get the airline on Web 3.0, what are you going to do with that? You are going to buy tickets. You're not going to do anything else, right? You want to buy the tickets, you want to make sure that you are getting upgrades. So new way of doing it. So are you going to buy as a digital asset? Are you going to work? In fact, already there are companies, there are already travel companies, TravelX is already doing that where you can get it as an NF token. You can actually tokenize it. And you can tokenize it and you can sell it to somebody else also. So there is basically, if you look at there's a flight up. Similarly, if you are looking at your partner network. So today you have got the complete travel agent setup. What will happen to them? If you are saying that the trust is directly with the entity you are going to work with, you are completely decentralizing that. So you need to basically look at that aspect, that how that maturity is going to come into the processes. So I think we already talked about there has to be a bridge. I think more than adoption question is about that, is the new world ready to take the masses? And it will vary from industry to industry. Some of the industries move very fast and some of the regulated industries will not move very fast. Because it is not about us moving fast. We have got airports, we have got regulators, we have got government agencies, we have got GDPR, we have got customer data, we have got and we have got ransomware, we have got security, you name it. So it's about that. So the maturity of that I think is important. From the use case perspective, from the whether there's a genuine use case to move, absolutely, there's no question about it. And if you sprinkle the immersive technology on top of it, beautiful, no? People want to go to New York through Metaverse, no? And want to take the pictures behind the Statue of Liberty and post it. Those options are available. You don't have to spend 5 lakh rupees to go to US. You need just 2 hours. And nobody will know whether you are in US or you are not there. You will actually experience that. You will exactly take the boat. You will exactly go to the river. Then you will actually do that. So this is what we are talking about. Those are the potential, I'm talking about only about travel as one of the use case. Look at the trainings. All the trainings will be completely done through this. Why do I need to go for physical trainings? I can exactly do this. Then also I can fix my whole supply chain. Complete supply chain can be fixed. All the contracts, forget about all the contracts you have got on SAP. Those are going to go on. Or any of the systems. So these will be all smart contracts. So when you are talking about, if I have a contract with my partner, it will be through the Web 3.0. Tell me that, are you having the blockchain, which provider or which currency you are going to trade, which platform you are going to go, payment gateways have to be changed completely. So I think it is a beautiful, I would say, technology intervention, which good news is that the blockchain is not new. It is already existing. And there are a lot of surrounding technologies which are coming to the front. I think it is only this, you have to, it's the Lego brick, right? You have to put these pieces together now. And you may, out of these bricks, you can make a lot of toys. Same bricks you can be used. So exactly whatever toy is ready, which can get the green color, that can push to 3.0.
Absolutely.
With that New York example, you built a very good use case for deep fake detection services.
Yeah, absolutely. That comes with that.
Exactly, and that is exactly what we at Primavision are trying to do. We are trying to, authenticate luxury goods using blockchain. Yeah, no, it is. For Instagram Reels, you don't need to now fly and go, right? You use the metaverse and just do it. So, see, we're making life so simple. Harleen, you head the marketing and retention for a group of brands, which some of them are, very well known, like Miss Malini, leader in the content space, and Baby Chakra, right? Organic Harvest, and many, many others. As a marketer, as a retention specialist, what is your perspective around Web 3.0? What do you think? What role do you think it will play in the industry that you are a part of?
Right. So I think when gentlemen there mentioned loyalty, like the new coin, sorry if I may use that word. I was very, very excited to hear that. That's a very upfront use case which every marketer would want to solve. And I think the panel here has very beautifully highlighted the architecture or the other needs that we have. But I think as a pure play marketer, digital marketer, for me, it's very imperative to understand, where are my customers? Am I marketing to them efficiently? What are my new KPIs of success? So when we look at marketing in the Web 3, 2.5 world, we need to also understand these KPIs that, here I'm marketing to a community which is already an evangelist. They're already into, let's say, organic beauty and personal care, right? But am I marketing to them effectively? What are my KPIs of success? So I think that's something as a marketer that brands would need to figure out, right? Then going about the entire length of understanding, how do you build those communities? How do you enter those communities rather, in the 3 world? How do you enter those communities? How do you get the evangelists to talk about you? How are you going to, how do you say, increase the flywheel? Will it be referral? Will it be one community user selling the token to let another enter? How do you want, or how can you influence that circle of wheel, to benefit the brand? So I think very interesting times. My sense is, frankly, Sumit, we are still, at least in India, 3 to 5 years away from a full mature cycle. But taking inspiration from what's happening in West, like Sir said about, things that are happening in US, Dubai, right? The Indian consumer, right, is very well awakened in terms of, what are the things that they can experience, and they want to experience that in India, especially, the luxury side of things, wherein the user itself is, nuanced. I think that's where the adoption would happen first. I think that's my sense on things.
No, absolutely, and I completely agree. In fact, I was doing a research, to figure out how are the VCs reacting to this particular space, and it was very sad to notice that if you look at the first half of 2023, the VC investments in the Web3 space was just about $3.2 billion. Compared to $28 billion in the AI space. So there is a lot of, perception that needs to be taken care of where, the VCs feel comfortable investing. And there is a reason behind that. Whenever, I also as an investor in my previous role in the private equity company, we used to get investments from, a lot of blockchain startups, a lot of blockchain companies. And there, everything was around cryptos and tokens, and people were all just looking at monetization. They were not looking at solving a problem, right? For any startup to be successful, you need to solve a problem. If you do not do that, you will not be able to scale or move beyond a certain size of space. Don't run after money. Let money run after you, right? Don't run after fame. Let fame run after you. Let that be the mantra of your startup or the business that you're building. Why not we move to the second section, which is all about use cases, right? So what are the different use cases, as industry leaders that we see in our respective organizations or the industry around us? So why not I start with Rajesh?
Yeah, sure. So the use cases, the audience has already covered it in terms of whether it is non-fungible token, whether it's tokenization, circular economy, decentralized identities. Passwordless authentication will also become a major use case because Web3 is going to bring in what we call as the zero knowledge proofs. And once the zero knowledge proofs come into major play, you will have passwordless authentication, then hopefully the DDoS attacks should wane away, should diminish away. So there are dime a dozen in terms of use cases. Again, I will slot it in terms of pure Web 3.0 kind of use cases and then a hybrid use case when you will have the corporate interfaces or large enterprises interfaces. And currently, there's a lot of venture capital money, crowdsourced money in Web 3.0. But the institutional money is not in Web 3.0. The institutional money is in how do you bring these two worlds together and make them operate or interoperable or operate in a frictionless and a seamless manner. So those will be the use cases from my vantage point.
And Rajesh, when I was looking at your profile, I know you did some amazing work with TRI.
Right.
And so the 3 telcos that you were working with to combat the problem of spams, spam calls and the spam messages that we receive.
Right.
You would want to highlight that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So there it is more from an information sharing exercise. Today, the spam call happens because of, earlier it used to happen because there was no real-time sharing of information. For instance, I would complain to Airtel, let's say I got a spam call and they would say, we are only a terminating access provider and we are not an originating access provider. So to go to Vodafone. Now, how do I go to Vodafone? I can't get to Airtel. Being an Airtel subscriber, how can I go to Vodafone by not being an Vodafone subscriber? So that kind of information sharing has happened. So we know exactly where the spam is going to originate when it comes to registered telemarketers. So the next question would be, when you have implemented this, why do we still get so many spam calls? Those are from unregistered telemarketers, what we call as the nomad guys, who go from network to network and set up SIM farms. And those SIM farms we are able to detect now in a shorter span of time because the telcos have come to the table agreeing to share the information. So that will, over a period of time, that is also going to die down. I mean, it's a pretty complex implementation.
I think this is a great example of mass adoption, right? How can you, implement Web3 and, implement it for the masses? Great. I think this is...
Sumit, only difference is in terms of, if you go to the real Web3 evangelists in the room, they wouldn't consider it as Web3 because it is still centralized enterprise blockchain hosted by a central authority. It is a quasi de-intermediation rather than a full disintermediation.
Right. Thanks. Vinod, any use cases that you would want to highlight?
See, if I have to pick maybe 2, 3, first is the digital identity.
Oh, yeah.
I think the big one, if I am able to crack that, I don't have to do away with a lot of things, particularly in the airline business. So you identify the person and the person can seamlessly go. And one of that small example is not exactly, but Digi Yatra, you would have seen it. So the face becomes the boarding pass. It's like that. It's on the similar lines. Second is the whole experience, user experience. I said that it's going to take you to altogether a different world. And definitely with an immersive technology backing it up. Third thing about the whole financial reconciliation.
Yeah.
Because we have got so many partners. I think if you have got the blockchain, and that's probably the first use case which will qualify it, because a lot of companies have done that. So it may be easier for us to push that envelope on that side. And there are many more like this. And there's one more, which is the data. See, when you are talking about airlines, airport, a lot of data gets exchanged. So if you tokenize the data, pass the data without telling them what the data is about, no? It's a fantastic. It will revolutionize the whole thing. I am getting a data, authentic data, but I don't know what the data is about. So GDPR is okay, compliance is okay, but you are actually moving very fast. And you can actually make it frictionless. The whole purpose of Web 3.0 is frictionless. Yeah. Make it frictionless. Let's stop here.
Sure. Thanks. Harleen.
I think the biggest use case, I think the kind of technology that we're using, that would matter. So yeah, I think that'll be my take.
I think that's brilliantly put, Harleen. And I guess that's the only way towards the adoption of Web3. Keep it simple. Let not technology come in the way of adoption. Tech is always going to be there in the back end, but let it be there at the back end. Let us solve the use cases in the industry that's available using, such a beautiful technology as Web3. And I guess, we'll automatically see the adoption. The ecosystem has to be created. Any tech that you adopt, if the ecosystem is not there, ecosystem of devices, ecosystem of apps, ecosystem of, the industry players coming together, the government playing a role, this will never be successful. So thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you, Harleen. Thank you so much, the audience, for an engaging discussion. Thanks.